Here are the thyroid and cricoid cartilages with all the muscles removed. We'll add the cricothyroid muscle to the picture. Here it is. The cricothyroid muscle arises from here on the cricoid cartilage. It inserts on the thyroid cartilage, partly here on the lower border, and partly here on the inner aspect of the lamina. The cricothyroid muscle pulls the arch of the cricoid cartilage upwards. In doing so, it pulls the arytenoid cartilages backwards, making the vocal folds longer and tighter. To see the remaining muscles, we'll remove this half of the thyroid cartilage together with the cricothyroid muscle. Here are the internal laryngeal muscles. To begin understanding them, we'll take them all out of the picture for a moment. Here's the cricoid cartilage. Here's the arytenoid cartilage. Here's the conus elasticus. The vocal ligament is up here. This is the mucosa of the vestibule. The first muscles to add are the two cricoarytenoid muscles. Here's the posterior one. Here's the lateral one. They both converge on the muscular process of the arytenoid cartilage. The posterior cricoarytenoid muscle arises from here on the back of the lamina of the cricoid cartilage. The lateral cricoarytenoid muscle arises from the upper border of the cricoid cartilage. The posterior cricoarytenoid pulls the muscular process backwards. This rotates the arytenoid cartilage, thus widening the vocal opening. The lateral cricoarytenoid pulls the arytenoid cartilage forwards and laterally, producing a maximal widening of the back of the vocal opening. The cricoarytenoid muscles act to widen the vocal aperture in two different ways. The next two muscles that we'll see, the thyroarytenoid and transverse arytenoid muscles, act to shorten and narrow the vocal opening. We'll add the thyroarytenoid muscle to the picture first. Here it is. The thyroarytenoid muscle arises from here on the inner aspect of the thyroid cartilage. It inserts here in front of the lateral border of the arytenoid cartilage. Next, we'll add the transverse arytenoid muscle. Here it is. The transverse arytenoid muscle, also called the arytenoideus, is a sheet of muscle that bridges the gap between the posterior surfaces of the two arytenoid cartilages. Let's see how these two muscles work. Contraction of the thyroarytenoid muscle rotates the arytenoid cartilage inward and pulls it forward, along with the cricoid cartilage. This action slackens the vocal ligaments and shortens the vocal opening from front to back. Contraction of the transverse arytenoid muscle brings the two arytenoid cartilages closer together, thus closing the posterior part of the vocal opening. The sphincter action of the last two muscles is augmented by a pair of slender muscles that pass upwards toward the epiglottis, the aryepiglottic muscles. These begin behind the transverse arytenoid muscle, cross the midline, and extend upward and forward a little below the aryepiglottic fold. Acting together, the thyroarytenoid, transverse arytenoid, and aryepiglottic muscles act as a sphincter that can completely close the larynx. We close our larynx every time we swallow, cough, and hold our breath. The most medial part of the thyroarytenoid muscle, which is attached to the vocal ligament, has a special function. It's known as the vocalis muscle. It makes fine adjustments to the tension of the vocal ligament. We'll end this section on the larynx by looking at the structures that are close to it, in front and below, the infrahyoid muscles and the thyroid gland. In addition, we'll see the parathyroid glands. Here again are the thyroid cartilage, the cricoid cartilage, and the trachea. These are the rings of cartilage which reinforce the wall of the trachea. We'll add the carotid sheaths to the picture. Here, just on each side of the trachea, are 2 of the 4 parathyroid glands. They're recognizable by their brownish color. The other 2 parathyroid glands are further down. Next we'll add the thyroid gland to the picture. Here it is. This is the left lobe of the thyroid gland. This is the right lobe. The 2 lobes are connected across the midline by the isthmus. The top of each lobe of the thyroid gland is level with the lower border of the thyroid cartilage. The top of the isthmus is about level with the 3rd ring of the trachea. Now we'll add the 4 infrahyoid muscles to the picture, starting with the 2 deepest ones, the thyrohyoid and the sternothyroid muscles. In effect, they're one continuous muscle. The thyrohyoid arises from the back of the body of the hyoid bone and inserts on the oblique line of the thyroid cartilage. The sternothyroid arises from the same oblique line and passes down behind the upper end of the sternum. It inserts on the back of the sternum down here. Now we'll add the other 2 infrahyoid muscles to the picture, the omohyoid and the sternohyoid. The omohyoid muscle arises here, the sternohyoid here on the body of the hyoid bone. The sternohyoid runs straight downwards close to the midline and inserts on the back of the sternum here. The omohyoid muscle runs downwards, laterally, and backwards. It lies in front of the carotid sheath and the brachial plexus, which is under here. The omohyoid muscle passes beneath the trapezius muscle to insert on the upper border of the scapula. Finally, we'll return the clavicles and the sternocleidomastoid muscles to the picture. In looking at the intact neck, it's useful to remember that when the neck isn't extended, the bottom of the cricoid cartilage may be no higher than the top of the clavicle. Now, let's review what we've seen of the larynx and its surroundings. Here's the thyroid cartilage. Here's the cricoid cartilage. Here's the arytenoid cartilage with its colliculus, vocal process, and muscular process. Here's the trachea. Here's the cricothyroid ligament. Here's the conus elasticus. Here are the vocal ligaments. Here's the epiglottis, the aryepiglottic fold, the vallecula, and the piriform recess. Here's the vestibule, the vestibular fold, and the vocal fold. Here's the cricothyroid muscle, the cricoarytenoids, posterior and lateral, the thyroarytenoid muscle, and the transverse arytenoid muscle. Here are the parathyroid glands and the thyroid gland. Here are the thyrohyoid, sternothyroid, omohyoid, and sternohyoid muscles. That brings us to the end of this tape, the Head and Neck Part 1. In the next tape, we'll look at the face, the brain, the blood vessels and nerves of the head and neck, the eye, and the ear.